What's happening, folks? Welcome back to the channel. This is just a quick video to run through my reaction to Brendan Rodgers' press conference from today, which I have just finished watching. There was obviously a lot to it. It was another 25-minute press conference from the manager. There's been a couple of those recently. I think it was eagerly anticipated this week, given the volume of speculation with Celtic players going out and I suppose the inactivity in terms of incoming transfer business as well. There was so many sound bites and so many quotes from Brendan Rodgers. Very interesting, some very telling. I think the anxiety and frustration has been building in the fan base all summer. You know that if you've watched my videos, that I've been frustrated and I've had a lack of patience at times because it's felt like things aren't really happening in the transfer front in terms of bringing in the players that we need to go and push on and try and be better than we were last season. It's been reflected in the comments as well and in most of our social media stuff. I'm sure a lot of you have seen it on your social media as well, the frustration among the fan base. I also know a lot of you don't agree with the level of frustration and are fed up with the level of moaning that happens in relation to transfers, but I think we could tell from Brendan Rodgers' quotes today and his body language at times and the way he answered certain questions that he's frustrated by it as well. I suppose we'll start with the main headline from the press conference in response to a question about how does he balance his ambition with his frustration in terms of trying to get players in. He said, I've been here before, I can manage it better now. He took a good few seconds pause before saying that. He went on to say it doesn't make him any less ambitious in terms of wanting players in and wanting the team to get better. He talked about how he's there to represent the supporters and try and put the best team that he can on the pitch. I think you could tell, again, his body language, his tone, that he is frustrated. He also went on to say in the press conference that there's nothing imminent in response to another question. So again, this is things that they've been a thread all summer. I've been talking about the slow nature of the business, the lack of even links at times. I know that there is plenty of links now that we've entered the last sort of 10 days or so of the window, but we've went through vast spells of this transfer window where it's been very, very quiet and there's been very little rumour, very little speculation about who Celtic would be bringing in. And allied to that, we've got this doubt about what the recruitment setup is at the club because we haven't replaced Mark Lawwell. Now, that question was asked today at the press conference and Brendan Rodgers just responded by saying the recruitment team that are here are putting in great work. He's always keen to labour that, how much work is going on in the background, as you would expect from the manager. But what he says is the targets are identified, they're put to me, and then the sort of priority targets from the lists that are given are put forward to the board to go and do the deals. I think it's dead easy to join the dots here. It's clear that from years and years of following Celtic, it's Groundhog Day when it comes to transfer windows, and never have the circumstances been so stacked in Celtic's favour than they are this season. And that's why the frustration in terms of the supporters is higher than it's ever been. That's why there's more moaning than there's ever been, because we've seen this movie before. We watch it every single summer. The only difference this season is, again, that the circumstances and the variables have never been so stacked in Celtic's favour in terms of how cash rich the club is. We have Champions League qualification. It's a newer format. We've got 2 extra games to play. We've got the incentive of going and playing 10 Champions League games. And yet we don't even have the basic structure in terms of ahead of recruitment. Brendan Rodgers said this is something that they want to look at, the club want to look at once the window's finished in terms of, I suppose what he means is replacing Mark Lawwell and having a head of recruitment again. That tells you its own story. I don't know if the club went out and tried to get a new head of recruitment in after Mark Lawwell left or not, but it's clear that there's a disconnect between the recruitment operation and then getting deals done. Something isn't happening, and it's the same story season after season. So to get back to some of the quotes from Brendan Rodgers and not just have me ranting here for the next 10-15 minutes, he said that in the Champions League he wanted to be there to compete, not just to participate. He also gave the same line that he always gives about how happy he is with the squad in terms of how the players are working just now, the level they're playing at, but that if we want to get better and push on, then we have to improve and we have to bring players to the club to do that. He also said on 2 occasions about why the players might not be in yet and what are the reasons, given the financial situation of the club, what are the reasons that players haven't been in the door yet. And he was keen to point out that we may have missed players in the market that have gone. Then there's availability, then there's affordability. And a couple of minutes later, he made the same point again, where he said the right player we might have seen, and then he's gone or he's decided to go somewhere else, but it's okay. So he's clearly getting at something there. I think there have been number 1 targets early in the summer that have clearly been missed, that we haven't brought to the club. And that strikes me as the board's incapability to get a deal done. Again, we're running out of excuses here for getting players in. 6 or 7 days to go, and if we've missed out on targets because of availability and affordability, yes, of course, a player can always choose to go somewhere else, and there will be times where they just don't want to come to Scotland, they just don't want to come to Celtic. But as the years go by, the club run out of excuses as to why they can't do transfer business. You can make up your own mind as to whether it's a lack of competence or total negligence, and the club don't have any ambition to push us forward and to try and progress and to try and grow the football club and to try and get better on a European level. I know that people think that's a hard thing to manage, but see, if you're going to sit on this volume of cash, why in these circumstances are you not trying to push the football club on? And that means getting deals done and maybe paying a wee bit more if you have to at times, particularly when you can afford to do so. We are 7 days to go in a transfer window and we have got no new outfield players. The squad is not any stronger than it was when it finished last season. We've got 7 days to go. Brendan Rodgers confirmed himself that nothing is imminent. That is so worrying it's untrue. Is it going to be left back? Is it going to be centre half? What are the positions we're going to scramble players over the line in this week? Or are we going to face our worst fears and close out next week not having been able to get any deals done? If nothing's imminent with 7 days to go, and obviously this weekend is a game weekend, work goes on around that, but you wouldn't expect anyone to be coming in the next couple of days. So then you're down to 4 or 5 days left of the window, still with nothing imminent. That's extremely concerning. Brendan Rodgers also said that there's a lot of intellectual people here, good business people that have obviously done very well, and that's why they're there. But he comes from the football side of it, and the bottom line for him is getting the best team on the pitch. The bottom line for the board and for the majority shareholder who sets the vision for Celtic, as outdated as it might be, is just to make as much profit as possible and stay ahead of Rangers. I can't fathom any reason why a football club would want to sit on the volume of profits that Celtic have in the last financial year and in this one. The numbers will be confirmed in mid-September, as they always are. But to have 2 years of sitting on huge profits for a football club makes no sense. A football club exists to put a team on the pitch to try and win competitions and try and get it better year after year. What is the point in posting 40 million quid of operating profit and paying huge sums in corporation tax? That's totally inefficient, and the board can come and tell us at the end of this window that, again, as they did in January, that they accept that it's inefficient to sit on these sums of cash, but what difference does it make? What does that mean? At the end of a window, you have results. The results are you've been able to bring the players in and get the deals done to push the club forward, or you haven't. And if you haven't, the club have got this list of excuses the length of their arm about why they couldn't do deals, and it's changed over the years. It used to be when the club didn't have huge sums of money that they were sitting on, it was, well, every penny's invested, every penny's reinvested back in. We don't sit on sums of money. Now they are sitting on sums of money. We've heard all the platitudes through different windows about how difficult it is to do business in January, how players don't want to come to Scotland, they don't want to come to Celtic, the weather's bad, whatever the excuses are, you name it. The end result is always the same, that this board are incapable of breaking Celtic through this glass ceiling that we've set for ourselves, because we're happy with just having domestic dominance, pocketing the money that we make from getting to the Champions League and doing nothing with it. Peter Lawwell, as the chairman, confirmed that in his chairman's statement last season when he said that they were preparing for the next time they don't make the Champions League. If you think this summer is bad, just wait to next season when we have Champions League qualifiers and there's still the same lack of ability to go and do deals and bring players in that can improve the football team that's on the pitch. When we have to navigate a qualifier to try and make the Champions League. Again, talking about the circumstances being so stacked in the club's favour, 3 consecutive seasons in the Champions League, more money than we've ever had. There's really no excuses for this, and I think you could sense that frustration in Brendan Rodgers. We also have an excellent manager, and I think he was keen to point out again that he understands where the supporters are coming from, because they're probably watching a team on the pitch that's playing very well just now and thinking, do you know what, with 2 or 3 of the right additions, this can go and be a really exciting season. But again, somehow we find ourselves here with 7 days to go. As I keep saying, nothing imminent. No improvements from last season in terms of the squad. I would love to hear from the people who are still really patient with the board and the recruitment operation. I'd love to hear the causes for optimism, how we're going to go and knock it out of the park and bring brilliant players in, exactly the ones we need, get brilliant deals done in the last 7 days. And again, if we go and get the right players, the question mark then becomes, are they ready? When can they contribute to the team? Are they going to be ready for next weekend? Almost certainly not. Are they going to be ready for the first Champions League match? Who knows? Are they going to need to settle in? All of those question marks that we went over the other day. There was so much to it. I'm sure you've watched it for yourself, and if you haven't, you can find the full press conference on Celtic's YouTube channel and give me your own thoughts on it below. I think the manager cuts a frustrated figure. I don't believe that there's any reason to disagree with him on that. I think the club have had 2 months, more than 2 months, to get their house in order. They should have, at the very least, had a new head of recruitment in position, so that we could attack this summer transfer window properly. And I'm sure they've got a list of excuses as to why that wasn't done either. But that's the very least that should have been in place, so that with these resources we were able to go and attack the transfer window and get the players in that we needed. And alongside that, there's these huge concerns about their inability or desire to actually go and do deals that can push the football club forward, because it just seems time and time again, even now that we're being linked with players, that most of the links just die a death, and there's always some sort of quote around being some way off the valuation. That just means that they've bought going and paying the asking price. We'll see how it unfolds in the next week. And Brendan Rodgers again was keen to point out, it wasn't all negative, by the way, for Brendan Rodgers. Although reading between the lines you can see that he's frustrated. He was keen to point out that we'll assess it when the window's closed, and where we end up will be the true reflection of the business that's done, and then we can properly judge it and we can properly analyse it, and I'm sure we'll do that. But I think it's appalling that the club find themselves in this position given the resources that they've got, and again it calls into question the ability and the competence there to go and take the football club to the next level and try and make it better. Either that or the desire to go and make the football club better. Again, you can decide that one for yourself. Next week's press conference will be an interesting one, because the window will be closed. The Champions League draw will have been done. We'll be a couple of days out from the first derby of the season. I will be in attendance at that press conference next week. So let's hope we have a good week and we get all the players in that we want, and we don't have to listen to another press conference like that for Brendan Rodgers, because it's not great to listen to. I think his manner and his tone don't fill you with confidence about the operation that's going on up the stairs in terms of recruitment, and it doesn't fill you with confidence that we're going to go and get the players that we need this week. It's a huge concern for the club, a huge concern. But like I say, if you've got a cause for optimism, you can let me know in the comments below. Like the video if you've enjoyed it, and we'll see you tomorrow for the starting 11 prediction for Sunday's game against St Mirren. Thank you.